Listen closely. If you clicked on this audio, chances are you are exhausted. Not just physically tired, but deeply mentally fatigued by the endless cycle of starting over. You know the cycle. You wake up on a Saturday morning feeling a sudden burst of motivation. You look at your life, your messy desk, your unfinished projects, your fitness level, and you say to yourself that today is the day. You dedicate 4 grueling hours to overhauling your life. You sweat, you organize, you grind, and you push yourself to the absolute limit. You go to bed that night feeling like a champion. But what happens on Tuesday? The momentum is gone. The soreness sets in. The daily friction of life takes over. And by Thursday at 5 p.m., you are right back where you started. Welcome to the trap of the weekend warrior. Society has sold us a massive lie about how success, personal growth, and transformation actually work. We have been conditioned to worship at the altar of intensity. We idolize the all-nighter, the massive launch, the dramatic transformation, and the relentless pursuit of strict, towering goals. We are taught that if we want to change our lives, we need to summon Herculean willpower and make giant, painful leaps. But here is the truth that this audiobook is going to prove to you. Intensity is vastly overrated. It is consistency that moves the needle. Doing something for just 20 minutes every single day is mathematically, psychologically, and biologically superior to doing it for 4 hours once a week. The 4-hour cram session might make you feel productive in the moment, but it is entirely unsustainable. It relies on a spike in motivation, and motivation is an emotional state. Emotions fade. Think about it like brushing your teeth. You do not skip brushing your teeth all week and then try to make up for it by brushing them for 45 minutes straight on Sunday. That would not give you a brighter smile. It would just destroy your gums. Yet this is exactly how we treat our personal growth, our businesses, and our dreams. Beyond the illusion of intensity, there is an even deeper trap we fall into, which is the obsession with the destination. We set rigid, uncompromising goals. We tell ourselves we will lose 30 pounds. We say we will write a book. We promise to make $1 million. But a goal is simply a binary state of failure until the exact moment you achieve it. You spend weeks, months, or years feeling like you are falling short, only to reach the summit, feel a fleeting moment of relief, and immediately ask what is next. A goal is simply a binary state of failure until the exact moment you achieve it. This audiobook is a rejection of that exhausting cycle. In the chapters ahead, we are going to dismantle the way you think about achievement. We are going to abandon the all-or-nothing mentality that is currently holding you back. You will learn why frequency rewires your brain faster than volume. You will discover why building a system, a daily path, is infinitely more powerful than setting a distant goal. If you are tired of chasing finish lines, if you are exhausted by the yo-yo effect of extreme effort followed by extreme burnout, you are in the right place. You do not need to work harder. You do not need more willpower. You simply need to shift your focus from the destination to the path. Settle in, get comfortable, or keep driving, walking, or working. By the end of this audio, you will have a completely new architecture for your daily life. Let us begin. Chapter 1. The Math of Momentum. Let us look at two different people, Person A and Person B. Both want to learn to play the piano. Both have the same level of talent, the same resources, and the same busy schedule. Person A takes the traditional weekend warrior approach. They are exhausted from work Monday through Friday, so they do not touch the keys at all during the week. But on Sunday afternoon, they sit down and practice for 4 solid hours. 240 minutes of intense, focused effort. Person B takes a different approach. They do not have 4 hours to spare on a Sunday. Instead, they sit down at the piano for just 20 minutes every single day. If we look purely at the math of time spent, Person A seems to be winning. At the end of the week, Person A has practiced for 240 minutes, while Person B has only practiced for 140 minutes. Person A has put in nearly double the time. Therefore, Person A should be progressing twice as fast, right? Wrong. In the real world of human psychology and biology, Person B will drastically outperform Person A. Here's why. The magic of personal growth does not lie in the volume of hours you put in on a single day. It lies in the momentum of frequency. When Person A practices for 4 hours on a Sunday, they wake up on Monday with a mental hangover. The task feels monumental. The brain remembers the exhaustion of that 4-hour session, and frankly, it wants a break. By Wednesday, the piano feels like a distant memory. When Sunday rolls around again, they have to spend the first hour just remembering what they learned the week before. They are constantly starting cold. Person B, however, never starts cold. By practicing for 20 minutes every day, the piano remains constantly at the top of their mind. When they sit down on Tuesday, Monday's lesson is still fresh. They do not have to waste time warming up or relearning forgotten muscle memory. But more importantly, a 20-minute commitment does not trigger resistance in the brain. It does not feel like a mountain to climb. It is just a quick, manageable part of the day. Intensity creates a spike, but consistency creates a baseline. This is the math of momentum. When you rely on massive bursts of effort, you are relying on motivation, and motivation is a highly unreliable fuel source. It spikes when you watch a great video or read an inspiring quote, but it crashes when you have a bad day at work or sleep poorly. If your system requires 4 hours of energy to execute, you will only execute it on your very best days. But a 20-minute daily habit survives your worst days. You can be tired, cranky, and stressed, and still find 20 minutes. Consistency keeps the engine running. It transforms an action from a monumental event into a normal, boring, everyday reality. And that is exactly what we want. We want your growth to become boring. We want it to become as automatic as making your morning coffee. Stop looking for the 4 hours you do not have, and start utilizing the 20 minutes you do. Chapter 2. The Destination Deception. From the time we are children, we are told to set goals. Write them down. Make them big. Make them specific. We are told we need to lose 30 pounds. We need to save $10,000. We need to get a promotion by the end of the year. Goal setting is treated as the ultimate secret to success. But there is a dark side to goals that the self-help industry rarely talks about. Goals, by their very design, are fundamentally linked to misery. Think about the structure of a goal. When you set a massive goal for the future, you are essentially drawing a line in the sand. On one side of the line is your current self, the self that has not yet achieved the goal. On the other side is the future successful self. By definition, as long as you are working toward the goal, you are existing in a state of failure. You are living in the gap between where you are and where you think you need to be happy. This creates what we call the destination deception. It is the toxic, pervasive belief that says you will be happy, you will be successful, and you will be worthy only when you reach the finish line. But what actually happens when you cross the finish line? Let us say you spend 6 grueling months dieting to lose those 30 pounds. You step on the scale and you see the number. You did it. You feel a massive rush of dopamine. You feel victorious. But how long does that feeling last? A day? A week? Very quickly the thrill fades. You are left staring in the mirror, realizing that you are the exact same person, just lighter. The existential dread creeps back in, and immediately your brain starts looking for the next destination. You set a new goal. You throw yourself back into the gap of not being good enough. Even worse is the yo-yo effect. When you are entirely focused on a goal, the goal is what sustains your behavior. The moment the goal is achieved, the motivation vanishes. This is why runners so often stop exercising entirely the week after they finish a marathon. The destination was reached, so the system collapsed. The destination was reached, so the system collapsed. Furthermore, consider this. Every single person who applies for a job has the goal of getting hired. Every athlete in the Olympic finals has the goal of winning the gold medal. Both winners and losers have the exact same goals. Therefore, the goal itself cannot be what separates the successful from the unsuccessful. What separates them is the path. Winners do not obsess over the destination. They obsess over their systems. A goal is a specific outcome you want to achieve. A system is the daily process that leads to outcomes. If you are an author, your goal is to write a book. Your system is writing 300 words every morning before breakfast. If you are an athlete, your goal is to win the championship. Your system is your daily diet, your stretching routine, and your practice schedule. Goals are good for setting a direction, but they are terrible for dictating your daily happiness. When you shift your focus from the destination to the path, you win every single day. You do not have to wait 6 months to feel successful. If your system is to read 10 pages a day, and you read 10 pages today, you are a success right now. You have engineered a life where victory is a daily occurrence, not a distant promise. Chapter 3. The Power of the Path. Imagine 2 hikers standing at the bottom of a massive mountain. Both of them have the exact same goal. They want to reach the beautiful peak at the very top. But they have 2 entirely different mindsets. The first hiker hates walking. They hate the dirt, they hate the steep incline, and they hate the effort. The entire way up, they are complaining. They constantly check their watch. They constantly look up at the peak, groaning about how far away it still is. They treat every single step as an annoying obstacle standing between them and their happiness. They finally reach the top. feel a brief moment of relief, and then immediately dread the long walk back down. The second hiker also wants to reach the peak, but this hiker loves the actual act of hiking. They love the crunch of the leaves under their boots. They enjoy the feeling of their muscles working hard. They are entirely present in the moment. When they reach the top, it is a wonderful bonus, but it was not the only reason they came out today. They had a great time during every single hour of the journey. Both hikers reached the exact same destination, but only one of them actually enjoyed their day. This is the profound difference between living for the destination and living on the path. In our modern culture, we are heavily conditioned to act like the first hiker. We treat the process as a necessary evil. We simply tolerate eating healthy food so we can get a beach body. We treat our present reality as nothing more than a waiting room for our future happiness. But here's the harsh reality. Your life is entirely lived in the present moment. The future does not actually exist yet. If you hate the process, you are spending the vast majority of your life hating your life. If you hate the process, you are spending the vast majority of your life hating your life. Unlocking the power of the path requires a fundamental shift in how you view your daily actions. You must stop treating your habits as a painful toll you have to pay. Instead, you have to find a way to fall in love with the process itself. When you genuinely fall in love with the process, you no longer need to rely on immense willpower. Willpower is only required when you are forcing yourself to do something you do not want to do. You do those things effortlessly because you enjoy the action. So, how do we fall in love with the path? It starts by redesigning your systems to fit your unique personality. If your system to get in shape involves running on a treadmill, and you absolutely despise running, your system is completely broken. If you hate it, you will eventually quit. Instead, you must find a physical activity you genuinely look forward to doing. Maybe it is taking a long, brisk walk outside while listening to an audiobook. When you choose a path you enjoy, the daily action becomes its own reward. Psychologists call this intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is doing something for an external reward, like money or praise. Intrinsic motivation is doing something simply because the act itself feels good. The highest performers in the world are almost entirely driven by intrinsic motivation. The famous author writes because they love playing with words, not just because they want to sell 1,000,000 copies. To master the compound path, you must stop asking how you can achieve your goal as fast as humanly possible. Ask yourself how you can build a daily system that you actually enjoy doing. Stop wishing you were already at the finish line. Embrace the simple steps you are taking today. The path is not just the way to the life you want. The path is your life. Chapter 4. Frequency over volume. Have you ever tried to walk through a dense, overgrown jungle? The first time you push your way through the thick vines and tall grass, it is incredibly difficult. You have to chop down branches, move heavy rocks, and fight for every single inch of progress. It is exhausting work. But imagine you walk that exact same path the very next day. The grass is still trampled down. The branches you chopped are still out of the way. It is just a tiny bit easier. If you walk that exact same path every single day for a month, it eventually becomes a smooth, clear dirt trail. You can walk it without even thinking. Now, imagine a different scenario. You fight your way through that jungle for 10 hours straight on a Sunday, creating a massive, wide clearing. But then, you do not go back into the jungle for a whole month. What happens? The jungle grows back. The vines creep in. The grass stands tall again, and the path disappears. When you return a month later, you have to start all over from scratch. This is exactly how your brain works when you are trying to build a new habit or learn a new skill. Your brain is made up of billions of neurons. When you perform an action, a spark of electricity travels down a specific pathway of these neurons. The first time you try something new, like speaking a few words of Spanish or doing a push-up, that neural pathway is like the overgrown jungle. It is weak, it is slow, and it requires a massive amount of conscious effort. But every single time you repeat that action, your brain strengthens that specific pathway. It wraps the neural connection in an insulating layer called myelin. The more myelin you build up, the faster and more automatic the action becomes. Here is the most crucial part of this biological process. Your brain prioritizes frequency over volume. It responds far better to the signal of daily repetition than it does to an isolated, massive event. Your brain prioritizes frequency over volume. It responds far better to the signal of daily repetition than it does to an isolated, massive event. If you study Spanish for 10 minutes every single day, you are constantly sending a signal to your brain that this neural pathway is important. You are walking the jungle path every day, keeping it clear. Your brain responds by reinforcing the connection, and the words begin to flow naturally. But if you study Spanish for 3 hours once a week, you are letting the jungle grow back for 6 days in between sessions. You are asking your brain to remember a pathway it has not used in nearly a week. The volume of your study time might be high, but the frequency is too low to build permanent, automatic connections. This biological reality is why the compound path is so incredibly powerful. When you commit to a daily practice, even if it is incredibly short, you are working with your brain instead of fighting against it. You are taking advantage of the natural way human beings learn and adapt. This is a massive relief for anyone who feels they do not have enough time to improve their lives. You do not need to find huge blocks of empty time to become great at something. You do not need to wait for a quiet weekend to start building your future. You simply need to find tiny pockets of time every single day to send the right signal to your nervous system. 5 minutes of meditation every morning will change your brain chemistry faster than a 2-hour meditation retreat once a year. 10 minutes of stretching before bed will improve your flexibility more than a brutal yoga class you only attend on Saturdays. Stop worrying about doing a massive amount of work. Stop obsessing over the volume of your effort. Instead, become obsessed with the frequency of your actions. Show up every single day, clear the path, and watch how quickly the difficult becomes effortless. Chapter 5. Designing Your Triggers. Have you ever noticed how some actions in your day happen without you even thinking about them? You wake up and you immediately walk to the kitchen to turn on the coffee maker. You get into your car, and before you even put the key in the ignition, you reach over and pull your seatbelt across your chest. You do not wake up and spend 10 minutes debating whether or not you have the willpower to make coffee. You do not sit in your driveway trying to find the motivation to wear a seatbelt. These actions are completely automatic. But why are they automatic? It is not because you have incredible discipline when it comes to coffee or seatbelts. It is because these actions are tied to a specific, undeniable trigger in your environment. A trigger is a clear signal that tells your brain it is time to perform a specific behavior. The trigger for the coffee is waking up and seeing the machine on the counter. The trigger for the seatbelt is sitting down in the driver's seat and hearing the heavy car door close. If you want to master the compound path and build daily habits that actually stick, you cannot rely on simply remembering to do them. You cannot rely on waking up and hoping you feel motivated. You must design your environment so that your daily practice is tied to an invisible, automatic trigger. The biggest mistake people make when trying to start a new daily routine is that they leave the starting line completely vague. They tell themselves they are going to read 20 pages of a book every day. But they do not decide when they are going to read, where they are going to read, or what will remind them to do it. So the book sits on the shelf. The day gets busy. Suddenly it is 11 o'clock at night, they are exhausted, and they realize they completely forgot to read. To fix this, we use a highly effective strategy called habit stacking. Habit stacking is the simple process of taking a brand new habit you want to build and attaching it directly to an old habit you already do every single day without fail. Instead of saying you will read 20 pages a day, you say this: after I pour my first cup of morning coffee, I will sit in the green armchair and read 20 pages. You must design your environment so that your daily practice is tied to an invisible, automatic trigger. In this scenario, pouring the cup of coffee is the trigger. You already pour a cup of coffee every single morning. It is a locked-in, guaranteed event in your day. By attaching the new habit of reading to the old habit of making coffee, you remove the entire need for willpower. The coffee becomes the starting gun for your daily reading habit. But we can take this one step further by physically designing your space. If you want to play the guitar every day after work, but your guitar is buried in the back of your closet inside a heavy black case, you are creating massive physical friction. The environment is actively fighting your goal. If you want to automate the start, you must make the right choice, the easiest choice in the room. Take the guitar out of the closet. Take it out of the heavy case. Buy a cheap guitar stand and place it directly next to the sofa where you normally sit when you get home from work. Now, the trigger is completely visual. You walk in the door, you see the instrument, and the barrier to entry is zero. You do not need more discipline. You just need a better designed room. By stacking your new habits onto existing routines and removing the physical friction from your environment, you make starting effortless. You just follow the triggers you have intentionally set up for yourself. This is how you stop fighting your own mind and start automating your success. Chapter 6. The Minimum Viable Habit. Let us talk about the concept of the perfect day. We all have a vision of what our ideal daily routine looks like. You wake up feeling completely refreshed. You drink a large glass of water. You exercise for 45 minutes. You sit down at a clean desk and work on your most important project for 2 solid hours without a single distraction. When we set out to build new habits, we almost always design them for this perfect day. We build a routine that requires us to be at our absolute best, with full energy and 0 interruptions. We call this operating at your ceiling. But here's the problem with designing your life around your ceiling. Perfect days are incredibly rare. Most days are messy. You sleep poorly. You get stuck in traffic. A meeting runs an hour late. Your child gets sick. You come home feeling completely drained, both physically and emotionally. On these messy days, that 45-minute workout, or those 2 hours of focused work, feel utterly impossible. So, what do? You do nothing. You tell yourself you will make up for it tomorrow. The chain is broken, the momentum dies, and the habit begins to fade. If you want to master the compound path, you have to stop designing your habits for your best days. You must design them for your worst days. You need to establish what we call the minimum viable habit. Your minimum viable habit is your daily floor. It is the absolute bare minimum action required to keep the momentum alive. It is a version of your habit that is so incredibly easy, it would be almost embarrassing to fail at it. If your goal is to run 3 miles a day, your minimum viable habit is to simply put on your running shoes and tie the laces. If your goal is to read a book a week, your floor is to read 1 single page. If you want to write a novel, your floor is to write 1 sentence. You have to stop designing your habits for your best days. You must design them for your worst days. At first, this sounds completely ridiculous. How on earth is reading 1 page or tying your shoes going to change your life? How is writing 1 sentence going to produce a finished novel? The secret is that the minimum viable habit is not about the physical output. It is about protecting the psychological momentum. It is about keeping the neural pathway in your brain active. When you have a terrible, exhausting day, and you still manage to write that 1 single sentence, you are casting a powerful vote for your new identity. You are proving to yourself that you are someone who shows up no matter what. You did not break the chain. The habit is still alive. Furthermore, the hardest part of any task is simply starting. Sir Isaac Newton taught us that an object at rest stays at rest, but an object in motion stays in motion. The massive friction of a task is almost entirely located in the first few seconds of getting started. When you promise yourself that you only have to read 1 single page, you completely remove the mental friction. You open the book. You read the page. And very often, you find that once you have started, you naturally want to keep going. You end up reading 5 pages, or 10. But even if you only read that 1 page and close the book, it is still a massive victory. Perfection is the enemy of consistency. Stop demanding perfection from yourself every single day. Lower your expectations for your worst days. Establish a ridiculously easy daily floor and focus entirely on keeping the streak alive. A tiny action will always be infinitely better than zero action. Chapter 7. Identity Shift. From Achieving to Becoming. Most people approach change by focusing entirely on what they want to achieve. They look at the outcome. They say they want to lose 20 pounds, or write a best-selling book, or start a successful business. They set a strict goal and then try to force their behavior to match that goal. But there is a much deeper layer of change that almost everyone ignores. It is the layer of identity. It is not about what you want to achieve. It is about who you want to become. Imagine two people who are trying to stop eating junk food. You offer a piece of cake to the first person. They decline and say, "No, thank you. I'm trying to quit eating sugar." This sounds like a perfectly reasonable response. But listen closely to the hidden language. This person still believes they are a sugar eater who is simply trying to be good today. They are hoping their willpower will hold out against their true desires. Their identity has not changed. Now you offer the same piece of cake to the second person. They decline and say, "No, thank you. I do not eat sugar." It is a tiny shift in words, but it represents a massive shift in mindset. This person is no longer identifying as someone who struggles with junk food. They have fundamentally changed how they see themselves. They are not trying to achieve a goal of avoiding cake. They have simply become a person who does not eat it. True behavior change is identity change. When your behavior and your identity are completely aligned, you no longer have to fight yourself. You do not need to use willpower to force yourself to do things that naturally align with who you are. True behavior change is identity change. When your behavior and your identity are completely aligned, you no longer have to fight yourself. If you genuinely believe you are a lazy person, you will constantly look for evidence to prove it. You will skip your workouts and tell yourself that it is just who you are. But if you truly believe you are an athlete, you will naturally want to train. An athlete does not miss a workout, so you do not miss a workout. The behavior simply follows the identity. So, how do we actually change our identity? You cannot simply stand in front of a mirror and repeat empty affirmations. You cannot just tell yourself you are a highly disciplined writer if you have not written a single word in 6 months. Your brain is too smart for that. It requires actual, undeniable proof. This is exactly where the compound path and the daily minimum viable habit come into play. Your identity emerges out of your habits. Every single time you perform an action, you are casting a vote for the type of person you wish to become. When you write one sentence on a Tuesday night, you are casting a vote that you are a writer. When you put on your running shoes on a rainy Thursday morning, you are casting a vote that you are a runner. When you meditate for 2 minutes instead of looking at your phone, you are casting a vote that you are a mindful person. You do not need a unanimous victory to win an election. You just need a majority of the votes. You do not need to be perfect every single day to change your identity. You just need to show up consistently enough to convince your brain that this is who you are now. The pressure of achieving a massive, distant goal is exhausting. Let it go. Stop focusing on the outcome you want to achieve. Put all of your energy into the type of person you want to become. Once you adopt the identity, the daily actions become entirely effortless. Chapter 8. The Compound Effect in Action. Imagine you are given a choice between two different payouts. Option A is $1 million in cold, hard cash, handed to you right this second. Option B is a single magic penny that doubles in value every single day for 31 days. Which one do you choose? Most people immediately grab the $1 million. It looks like the obvious safe choice. But if you do the math on the magic penny, a shocking reality emerges. On day 1, you have 1 cent. On day 5, you have 16 cents. By day 10, after a third of the month is gone, you only have $5.12. You might start to feel foolish for passing up the $1 million. By day 20, you are up to $5,242. It is a nice amount of money, but it is nowhere near $1 million. But then, the magic of the compound effect truly kicks in. The growth becomes exponential. By day 29, you pass the $2 million mark. And on day 31, you walk away with over $10 million. The magic penny absolutely destroys the instant payout. This mathematical reality is the exact same force that governs your personal growth, your habits, and your ultimate success. When you first step onto the compound path and begin your new daily habits, you are in the early days of the magic penny. You put in the work on day 1, day 5, and day 10, but you look around and see absolutely zero visible results. You go to the gym for 2 straight weeks, but when you look in the mirror, your body looks exactly the same. You study a new language for 20 days, but you still cannot hold a basic conversation. This period of time is known as the phase of invisible progress, and it is exactly where 99% of people quit. People quit because they expect their progress to be entirely linear. They assume that if they put in 10 units of effort, they should immediately receive 10 units of visible reward. When the reward does not show up, they feel like they are failing. They tell themselves that the system is broken, or that they do not have the right genetics, or that they are just not meant to succeed. Your effort is never wasted. It is simply being stored. Think about an ice cube sitting on a table in a freezing cold room. The temperature is 25 degrees. You slowly start to heat the room. 26 degrees. 27 degrees. 28 degrees. 29 degrees. 30 degrees. 31 degrees. You have put in a massive amount of energy to heat that room, but the ice cube has not changed at all. It is still a solid block of ice. Then the temperature hits 32 degrees. Suddenly, the ice begins to melt. A single 1-degree shift, exactly the same amount of effort as all the previous shifts, unlocked a massive physical transformation. When you are reading your 10 pages a day, or practicing your guitar for 20 minutes, or saving $10 a week, you are heating the room. You are building the potential energy required to create a massive breakthrough. You must learn to trust the invisible progress. You must understand that the massive visible changes you desire are waiting for you, but they are heavily backloaded. They only show up after you have put in the long, quiet hours of consistent daily action. Do not quit on day 20 just because you cannot see the $10 million yet. Keep showing up. Keep heating the room. And let the compound effect do the heavy lifting for you. Chapter 9. Surviving the Dip. Every new journey begins with a honeymoon phase. The first time you go to the gym, buy a new guitar, or start writing a book, your brain is absolutely flooded with dopamine. The novelty of the experience makes you feel alive. You are excited. You are motivated, and you are dreaming about the incredible results you are going to achieve. But eventually, week 3 arrives. The novelty is completely gone. The new shoes are dirty. The guitar fingers are blistered. The blank page is intimidating. The excitement is suddenly replaced by a very specific, dangerous emotion: boredom. Welcome to the dip. The dip is the long, flat plateau between starting a new habit and actually seeing the results. It is the quiet, unglamorous middle ground, and it is the exact place where 99% of all personal growth journeys go to die. We have a massive misconception in our culture about what makes people successful. We assume that elite athletes, famous musicians, and brilliant entrepreneurs are just constantly motivated. We think they wake up every single day vibrating with excitement to do their work. We believe that because we are feeling bored, we must be on the wrong path. The truth is the exact opposite. The highest performers in the world get just as bored as you do. The daily routine of an Olympic swimmer is incredibly repetitive and monotonous. The only difference is that the professional has learned how to keep going when the boredom strikes. Amateurs let their temporary emotions dictate their actions. If they feel bored or uninspired, they simply stop. Professionals let their identity dictate their actions. They show up and execute the system even when the work is incredibly dull. So, how do you actually survive the dip? You have to fundamentally change your relationship with boredom. Boredom is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is actually the ultimate proof that your system is working. Instead of running away from the boredom, you must learn to lean into it. Boredom means the action is no longer a scary, novel event that requires massive brain power. It means the action is finally becoming a deeply ingrained, automatic habit. You do not get excited to brush your teeth every morning, but you still do it. That is the exact level of boring reliability we want for your goals. When you feel the overwhelming urge to quit because your daily practice is no longer fun, you need to fall back on your minimum viable habit. Do not try to force a massive, inspiring session. Just do the bare minimum. Show up, check the box, protect the neural pathway, and keep the streak alive. You can also introduce tiny, artificial variations to keep your brain slightly engaged without changing the core routine. If you run the exact same route every day, try running it in the opposite direction. If you write at your desk, try writing at the kitchen table. Keep the habit exactly the same, but change the scenery just enough to wake up your attention. Remember that the dip is a natural filter. It is designed by nature to weed out the people who are only interested in the easy reward, leaving only the people who are genuinely committed to the path. When you push through the boredom, you leave the crowded room of amateurs completely behind. Chapter 10. The Art of the Rebound. No matter how perfectly you design your environment, and no matter how small you make your minimum viable habit, a day will eventually come where you completely fail. You will get sick. You will have a family emergency. You will be entirely exhausted and simply forget to do your daily practice. This is not a possibility. It is an absolute certainty. When this happens, most people fall straight into a dangerous psychological trap. Researchers call it the "what the hell" effect. You miss one workout, or you eat one piece of junk food, and your brain immediately tells you that the entire streak is ruined. You think to yourself that you already messed up today, so what the hell? You might as well eat the whole pizza. You tell yourself you will just start over again next Monday. This perfectionist mindset is the true enemy of the compound path. It treats a single mistake as a complete disaster, but biologically and mathematically, a single missed day has almost zero impact on your long-term progress. If you practice the piano for 100 days in a row, and then you miss day 101, your brain does not suddenly delete all the progress you built up. Your neural pathways are still strong. The skills are still stored inside you. The only thing you lost was a tiny bit of forward momentum. However, there is a massive difference between missing one day and missing 2 days. Missing one day is a simple mistake. Missing 2 days in a row is the beginning of a brand new habit. This brings us to the most important rule of the compound path. You must fiercely protect the rule of never missing twice. When you miss a day, you must completely let go of the guilt. Guilt is a heavy, useless emotion that only creates more mental friction. You are a human being, not a programmed machine. Forgive yourself immediately. But the very next day, you must treat your daily action as a top priority. You must get back on the path, even if it means only doing your minimum viable habit. If you missed your run on Tuesday, you cannot let Wednesday slip by. Even if you only put on your shoes and walk to the end of the driveway on Wednesday, you have successfully defended the rule. You have stopped the negative momentum in its tracks. You have proven to your brain that the positive habit is still your true identity. Over the course of a single year, there will be 30 or 40 days where life completely gets in your way. If you let every single one of those bad days turn into a bad week, you will never reach your destination. But if you cap every single failure at a maximum of 1 day, those interruptions become entirely meaningless to your long-term success. Perfect consistency is an illusion. The people who succeed at the highest levels are not the ones who never fail. They are simply the ones who recover the fastest. They do not let a flat tire ruin the entire road trip. They pull over, fix the tire, and get right back on the highway. Expect the interruptions. Plan for the messy days. And when you inevitably stumble, take a deep breath, drop the heavy guilt, and absolutely refuse to miss twice. Conclusion. The journey is the destination. We have reached the end of our time together. If you take only one single lesson from this entire audiobook, let it be this. You do not need to drastically overhaul your entire life by tomorrow morning. You do not need a massive surge of motivation to become the person you want to be. For years, society has sold you the illusion of the giant leap. You have been told to obsess over the distant finish line, to set massive goals, and to sacrifice your daily happiness for a future that has not even arrived yet. You have been taught to be the weekend warrior, burning yourself out with intense, unsustainable effort. But you now know the truth. The secret to a deeply fulfilling and successful life is not found in intensity. It is found in consistency. It is found in the quiet, boring, everyday actions that slowly rewire your brain and reshape your identity. When you choose the compound path, you stop fighting your own biology. You stop relying on the unreliable fuel of motivation. Instead, you design a life where the right choices are the easiest choices. You tie your new habits to automatic triggers. You lower the barrier to entry by embracing the minimum viable habit. You understand that reading one single page or walking for 5 minutes is infinitely more powerful than doing absolutely nothing. Remember the magic penny. Remember that massive results are heavily backloaded. A small action repeated daily will always defeat a massive action performed inconsistently. You are clearing the jungle path in your brain through frequency, not volume. You are making the difficult things completely effortless. The destination is an illusion. The journey is the only thing that is real. Most importantly, you have learned to fall in love with the process. You are no longer existing in the gap between where you are and where you want to be. You are not waiting for a specific number on the scale or a specific amount of money in the bank to finally feel proud of yourself. You have shifted your focus from achieving to becoming. When you execute your daily practice, no matter how small it is, you are succeeding right here, right now. Every single day you show up, you are casting a powerful vote for your new identity. There will be hard days. There will be days when the dip feels endless and the boredom tries to convince you to quit. There will be days when the progress feels completely invisible, like an ice cube refusing to melt. And there will certainly be days where life gets in the way and you miss your daily action altogether. But you now possess the tools to handle all of it. You know that boredom is just a sign that the habit is becoming automatic. You know that invisible progress is still progress. And you know the golden rule of the rebound. You will forgive yourself, get back on track the very next day, and you will never miss twice. The life you have always dreamed of is not waiting for you at the top of a distant mountain. It is being built right now, in the very next choice you make. Stop waiting. Stop planning for the perfect moment. Establish your minimum viable habit, find your trigger, and take your very first step today. This concludes our journey today. Thank you for listening. If you found value in this, please leave a like. It really helps the channel. I'd also love to hear your favorite takeaway in the comments below. Subscribe for more audiobooks, and I'll see you in the next one.